I met Darrell this summer at the MBA Career Services Council conference. We were both on a panel talking about informational interviewing and how to make those connections. And so that's where I got to know him, and really like the book and the tactic that he's taking in the book. So I hope if most of you have it and have had a chance to read it, and if not, that you will over the next couple weeks as you finish up the class. So. Good. Our university bookstore is carrying it now, Darrell, so very exciting.
Oh, wonderful. Great news. Need to get the rest of the university bookstores around the country doing that. Y'all are the pioneers.
That's right. The book just came out, so. Excellent. Okay, we can see you again. Can you see us?
No, but I could go ahead and get started if you'd like.
Sure, that's great. Why don't you start with whatever you'd like to share with us? We've got about a half hour. And they also have some questions, so thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't see all of you, but I want Jennifer to maybe take note of the answers on this. How many of you would like to get connected with anyone you want in the business world? Just raise your hand.
We got everybody raising their hand.
I can imagine. And how many of you would like those connections to provide you with opportunities to really move into your heart's desire? I'm sure most of those hands are up. So that's what's possible through an effective, well-organized, stealth or backdoor career campaign and approach to networking. And so that's what we're here to discuss today and to answer your questions on. And first off, I just want to acknowledge you for taking on your MBA program. I know that a lot of years of planning, a lot of thought has gone into you being in this chair that you're in right now. A lot of resources are going into it as well. And so just want to acknowledge you're taking that on to move your career up a level. And also want to acknowledge Jennifer. Jennifer is a real pleasure to work with. Y'all are so blessed to have Jennifer at the helm of y'all's career services group over there, because she is committed that people really get where they want to go. And also the whole staff there at Colorado State. And just to give you a little bit of a quick background on me, I got started in the career industry in a unique way. I had degrees in finance and international business from the University of Texas, McComb School. And I spent a year working for Arthur Young, a Big 8 accounting firm overseas. And by the way, they loved my accent. Y'all will hear me say y'all every now and then. And Brits would always come up to me and say, "Darrell, talk. We don't care what you say. Just talk." Dallas, the first version of Dallas was really popular then. They thought I sounded like JR. But anyhow, I spent a year in London, and I came back to the States, and I wanted to get into the entertainment industry. And it's a very competitive industry, like most things are very competitive now. And I knew I needed to do something a little different. And so I actually went to a career coaching firm down in Irvine, and I learned what I now call the backdoor or stealth method. I've refined it quite a bit over the years. And by using that method, I met with the chief financial officers of the top 7 entertainment studios in their offices within 2 months. And these were private meetings, and I ended up getting an offer for MGM to work in their theatrical distribution area without even going through HR. That's kind of what my initiation into the careers world. After a couple years at MGM, I decided numbers wasn't really it for me, and I made a lot of contacts through that backdoor or stealth campaign, and connected with a recruiter and told him I should really try something in sales. And he said, "Well, why don't you try headhunting?" And I did that for 15 years. So for 15 years, I placed people in sales and marketing, accounting and finance, human resources. And about 10 years ago, and I would say that probably some of y'all are here because you're looking to make kind of a career change. You really want to do something maybe different, take a different tack. I went through a career change about a decade ago, and I decided after the 2001 recession I saw people not really able to manage their own careers without headhunters, and I thought I wanted to teach people how to fish rather than give them a fish. And so that's when I became a career strategist and coach, and I started teaching people this backdoor or stealth method. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And so that's just a little bit about me. And I just wanted to give a few opening, I guess, remarks and then open it up for your questions. First off, y'all are really blessed. I looked at Jennifer's program, and starting out with the most important thing of all with Rich Feller yesterday is, what are you passionate about? You know, what you're in a program now that will allow you to make a big difference in a high-level way in whatever direction you want to go. And it could be Wall Street, it could be nonprofit, it could be helping privileged communities in Africa. It's like you're going to develop a lot of skills. And so, with what Rich was bringing to you, as well as what William brought to you about branding, as well as what Steve brought to you about, making these connections, I just want you to realize that what we're going to talk about today, or this stealth method, is really a place where it can all come together. Because what will get you to making the difference you want to make is going to be not only being clear about what that is, and you'll get more clear as you get out and talk to more people and create those relationships with thought leaders in those fields, but then through those relationships, you're going to be opening doors because you're going to be creating affinity and relationships, and people like to work with people that they know and like. And so that's kind of our cut at everything that you've been going over for the last 2 days. Your MBA program is a unique opportunity to really up-level. You may want to stay in the same industry that you've been in, and this will allow you to play at a higher level. You may be taking your MBA right now as an opportunity to change everything up and really make an entire career change and shift into something completely new. What's great about you being in your program is that you're in a unique place of people want to help students. So, I teach this method to executives, 45, 50, 60-year-old executives who are making a transition, and it works for them as well. And yet, when you're a student, it's a really unique place in which people feel kind of morally obligated to reach out and help. So this is a really great time if you take this on now at the beginning of your program and work it for the next year, 2 years, with your case studies, with your research projects, using this method to really get out and make those connections. You're going to not only gain tons of information that will help you make your decisions about your heart's desire, but you're going to have those connections that are going to be opening doors for you left and right. I'll just tell you a quick little story. There's this person was turned on to me who had used their MBA program in this way. And I'm going to have her on a webinar that I'm going to be doing in September for students like you. But she had been in the oil and gas industry. She was a financial person and had done that for about 10 years and was really tired of it. It wasn't where her juice was. And sometimes you don't know your juice until later in life. There's seasons where you learn more and more about what really turns you on. And she got into her MBA program, and she wanted to use it as an avenue to get into sports entertainment. Big difference, right? And when you go through the front door on things and you're trying to get in through HR and everything, God bless HR people, but they got to check things off to see if you have this, you have this, right? And so big entire career changes aren't necessarily always possible through the front door. But through the back door and through relationships, all things are possible. And so what she did was she used her MBA program to really use all of her research projects, all of her case studies, to get out and connect with people in sports entertainment. And she did that for a 2-year program, and she got so well known and so connected that when her program was over, she had opportunities to to step into that. She's now VP of Finance for the Angels. And, she's done that now for several years. But I love her story because it's an exact example of what I want all of you to know that you can do to either make a change or to up-level yourself if you use the unique place that you're at to get out and really make connections and build that backdoor, what I call career tribe. So anyhow, I think yesterday you saw a video of the 10 executive keys to opening doors. And I just want to leave the rest of the time here open for any questions you have. I still can't see you, so if you can just maybe tell me your name and we'll answer any questions you might have or any comments or thoughts you have on what I just said.
Who'd like to ask the first question? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Darrell. My name's Kevin, and I enjoyed your book. I thought it was it's a really great reminder that we need to bolster up our networks, in our careers. Especially if, for my instance, I work for GE, so I'm getting a program basically to stay with the same company and maybe move up. How would you go about, doing some of these, backdoor interviews, basically if you're staying in the same industry?
Yeah, great question, Kevin. A couple things I'll say is, number one, this method, though, I guess the main gist of the book seems to be for people who are, career transitioning or they're looking for a job. This method can be used to move up in an organization. This method can be used by entrepreneurs to create a business. It's really just a method for getting out and making connections, that allow things to happen. If you look in the, I don't know, I think it said you read the book or you have the book. If you look in the back, there's some stories from people, and it's called the Stealth Method in Action. Mm-hmm. And one of those stories is from a gentleman named David Bartholomew, and he was consulting with Southern California Edison, and he used this method to make connections and, up the ladder and to create kind of a role for himself beyond what he was doing at the time. And, so I guess I'd say definitely read his story. But what I would say is, sometimes there's the question within an organization, or are you stepping outside the hierarchy or something? But if you really are coming from a research basis, like something you're really fascinated by, something that you kind of almost feel a mission about, and that's an important part of this process, is that it's not just a ruse or it's not just a trick, to get in front of people and get a job. That what it is it's motivated by your passions, which, Rich was, I think, talking to y'all about yesterday morning. So what I would say is, let me just give you a quick example. A client of mine, one time, I always ask people, are you still really passionate about what you do? And if they say no, I say, okay, then we got to find out what you're really passionate about, because it's silly to be out asking questions and getting connected with people, if there's no passion there. But one time I asked the client, are you still passionate about what you do? And what he does is he puts together the productions for the theme parks. If you've ever been to Universal Studios, they have Waterworld and they have these big productions. And he said, yeah, I'm really turned on about what I do still. And I said, okay, then what's at the cutting edge of it? What is it that really is fascinating that would be something you want to know more about? And he said, well, I always wondered these shows, why we couldn't put a controller at each audience member's seat where they could input data and impact how the show is going to go in real time. Like the show might actually change based on, the audience input. I said, you know what, that sounds like a great research project. Sounds like a good reason to go out there and be talking to people and talking about something. And it's all about getting exposed. Here's the one thing, Kevin, to realize, too, is that someone with a vision or a mission is always more attractive than someone who needs a job or someone who wants a promotion. So what I would say is, you getting really turned on and finding out what is the unique thing that you want to make a difference in and have it as a research project, that allows you to get past all the hierarchical issues, because you're wanting to talk to people about something you're fascinated by. Does that make sense, and does that help?
Absolutely. Having the approach of, coming with something to the table, I guess in a format of a research project, it might be something, depending on your company culture, that, would certainly be helpful.
Yeah, and, again, it's kind of like being of service,
Right,
to your
right.
organization is like if you really get turned on about something and you're really out because of wanting to see something like that move forward, or at least talk to the people who would know about it, it's like you almost create a little bit of a buzz for yourself. Like, who's this guy talking about this? And it's like, again, it's really apparent if you're doing it for you or if you're doing it for, the betterment of the organization. But, I think it can only be perceived as helpful for you in your career, if you can approach it that way.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello, Darrell. Thanks for being with us. I appreciate it. My name is Kyle. I was just wondering, so going forward, when you have like a lamp list created, your motivation for a job is 5, and they have listings on the website. You go and you find a contact and you have this informational interview with them, and maybe regarding a research project, or and they answer your questions, and that's kind of the end of the interview. How do you further the relationship? Just ask another time to meet with them and ask them more questions, or how do you actually have something come of it?
Okay, Kyle, you might be mixing my book up with Steve's. Steve's is the 24-hour job search, and it's really about, LinkedIn and making these connections and then getting out to meet with them.
So, Darrell, I think the question, though, is I think he's trying to tie the two together because we have them read both.
You bet, absolutely.
I think what he's saying is, okay, he's identified this company, and he went and he had one meeting, and how does he turn it into a relationship? If he just had one meeting, he said, I want to know about this, and you answered my questions, and then now what do I do? How does that become an ongoing relationship?
You bet.
And really difficult
and I was going there because, exactly, we do want to tie it all together because it's all valuable. So in my book, what I talk about first is how you do that first meeting. So it's really important, Kyle, how you conduct that first meeting. In my book, what I'm talking about is, yes, you create your 20 questions. Principle number 3 in the 10 principles for launching an effective stealth campaign. Principle number 3 says a questionable person creates enthusiastic relationships. So you create your questions. However, it's not about going in and being like a journalist and just firing off your questions. The coming up with the questions is to prepare you in a way for having an effective conversation, so you sound like somebody who really knows about what you're researching and looking into. But what I go into in principle number 8 is how to actually conduct that campaign. And to be honest with you, you won't even be asking a whole lot of your questions that you've listed out. What you're going to start that campaign with is asking about them. And it's really a critical part of this process, because what I'm helping you do here is start to create a relationship, okay? And if you look at principle number 8, it goes through the 5 stages of a backdoor meeting or of a stealth meeting, informational interview, whatever you want to call it. And the first stage is where you come in with your questions. Hi, John. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it. I've got lots of questions based on the research I told you about. Before we even get started, though, John, I was just wondering, I looked at your background on LinkedIn. What got you into this industry? Now, what attracted you here? What made you switch from IBM to Lucent? In other words, you open it up by getting them talking about themselves. And Kyle, if you nurture it, you can get them talking about themselves for 25, 30 minutes. And it's that kind of personal. I talk more in the book about what subconsciously happens with them. They start liking you subconsciously. They start feeling a sense of beholden. You've done so much for me. What can I do for you? These are just things that occur out of playing off of that human psychology. And then, excuse me, and then you may have some other questions that you want to ask. The main point of that first meeting, though, is establishing a relationship. There's a couple other stages in there where you're going to show them your background, and you're going to ask them a research question based on your background, okay? And that's how they start to get a sense of you. And then you're going to ask them, if they know other people that could assist in your research. They're going to give you referrals. And then you're going to say, hey, this has been so helpful. I'm just starting my research. Do you mind if I have other questions that come up? I follow up with you, or can I just keep you posted on my research? And that is the beginning right there, Kyle, of an ongoing relationship that you'll want to nurture. I talk about in the book, one method is what I call holiday letters. Excuse me. You know how you get these letters during the holidays and it says everything that happened to somebody in their life over the last year? Well, every 30 days, you're going to be sending them a holiday letter or an email saying, hey, John, I just want to thank you again for meeting with me back on August 10th. At the time, we talked about this and this and that, and it was so helpful. Here's what's happened since then. I did this, I talked to this person. Here's what's been going on here. I just wanted to keep you updated. Let me know if you know of other people I should be talking to or other things I should consider. And every 30 days, you're sending that. And whether you get a response, Kyle, back from them or not, you're staying top of mind with them. And what I do recommend is a month or two later, going in and having another, hey, wanted to follow up. Some other things have come up. Wanted to see if we could actually sit down again. You might even do this at a coffee shop or something. The point is to cultivate and create relationship, not just get questions answered. Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Yeah, thanks a lot. It seems really similar to, I'm in the real estate industry as well, and it seems similar almost to like running a business almost, and creating these relationships only just for a different motivation, which is kind of cool. But yeah, thanks.
Good. Great.
Other questions? Who else has one? Yes.
I can't have answered everything.
We've got another one.
How long, in your experience, do you see the stealth method taking?
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Molly?
Molly?
Mm-hmm.
Molly? Okay.
Yes. Sorry. My name is Molly. I was just curious how long in your experience you saw the stealth method coming to fruition.
A long time, actually. And by the way, the gal I told you about who's now the VP of Finance for the Angels, her name is Molly. Just to see if that was the same. A lot. As I said, for 15 years I was operating as a headhunter. And as a headhunter, as a recruiter, you're the go-between. You're the one wanting to manage all of it, right? So I wasn't necessarily, coaching people in this. But a decade ago, whenever I decided I really wanted to empower people in learning how to manage their own career, I've been teaching this. If you go to my site and you click on the reviews tab, you'll see tons of videos and audios of people who this has worked for. Here's the thing, Molly. This isn't brain surgery. It's just, it's a method that's easily followable, kind of like paint by numbers, that gives you a structure for knowing and getting known by people. Okay? In other words, lots of people, when they want something like a job or something like that, it's just they're wearing it on their sleeves. And people run away from people who are needy. And so this backdoor stealth method is really, it's almost like politics. It's almost like just human psychology. But it's, people want to work with people that they know and like. And this is a method for getting known and liked. If you play it. And again, you're in a unique position because you got a lot of reasons for research, given that you're in a program right now. And you'll notice that people will open their doors. I had a couple people who got my book, and they camped out with my book for a weekend. And they went through every question, every exercise, and just did it. And they contacted me afterwards, and I'm kind of supporting them a little bit with some calls. But the thing is that it's opened up doors. They're meeting people left and right now that they never would have met because they just didn't have a simple structure by which to do it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. We have another question.
Hi, Darrell. My name is Jennifer.
Ever?
Hi. If you are looking at transitioning into a new career path, my background is architecture, and I don't know if I'll be staying with that. Is it appropriate when looking at different companies to try to meet with people from different departments and form relationships across one company, or should you be mixing that among different corporations?
Well, what I would say is when you say different departments, there are going to be some that are more relevant to your skills and background and some that aren't. I think if I were you, what I would do is be making connections with, in my book I say to go for someone 2 levels higher than the level you will go in at. So it's ideal for you to, if you're going to initiate a contact out of the blue, it'll be ideal for you to connect with somebody at 2 levels higher than you go in at, because they have a wider scope. They're generally more generous. They're generally, they're not as much involved in the minutia. They understand the power of networking and relationships, and they have a wider scope of what's going on with their organization. So what I would say is, finding the people at that level, getting over a cold, finding the people at that level in lots of different organizations and connecting and you're building your career tribe that way, they're the person that, would probably be the most swing pin person in that organization to create an opportunity for you if you want to pursue that organization one day. It's almost like, though, you don't even have to pursue it. It's just being known by that person over time and them taking a vested interest, in your career and your research, and, it's almost like becoming your mentor. They're not stupid. If they can use you and want to use you at some point, they're going to let you aware of it. You don't even have to pursue. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Another
Kind
question.
of a follow-up on that, Darrell. My name is Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Hi. And if you're looking at that 2 level above, but the job you're looking for is either right at that C-level suite or just below, there may not be 2 levels above. Do you recommend looking to kind of build that network tribe with others that hold positions, like, for example, let's say a CIO or a CFO, that you're going after a CFO position? Would you look at building, all right, I want to be interested in potentially holding this role at some point in my career, so therefore you kind of connect with a lot of CFOs? Or would you look at kind of connecting across?
Well, let me ask you then, the kind of role you would be seeing yourself go in at is as a CFO, right?
More of a CIO, information or technology officer. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, let me give you an example of something, and you can see how you might use it for yourself. A client of mine was a CFO, and so his job was to find a way, and by the way, backdoor campaigns are unique to each individual. It's kind of like you got to get creative and figure it out. I could give you all several examples of different types of backdoor campaigns based on research. But he was really good at inventory control. That was his gig. I mean, he had saved lots of companies money with inventory control methods. And so what he did was he created a backdoor research campaign by writing an article for the American Society of CPA Journal, and it was going to be an article about inventory control methods. And so what he did was he went out and approached CEOs to talk to them about, and he was specifically focusing on small to mid-sized companies, manufacturing organizations. But he approached them for researching that article. He was going to be out talking to a lot of people. And that got him in the door of getting known by lots of people. And, it's kind of like, people aren't stupid again. And it's like, And by the way, everybody wants to be an expert. So if you approach someone saying, hey, I'm writing an article, I wanted to see if I could get your opinions on this, it's like, people will open doors for that. And they also are aware that, okay, well, you're writing about something, then you must know a little bit about that. And so it can tend to open up doors in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So quick example. Client of mine one time was a VP of marketing for Epson, the printer company, and he had left there. And he was consulting with a couple partners. And, they were putting out calls, maybe 100 calls a week. I mean, we'll just grab a number. Trying to get in touch with CEOs to set up meetings, to find out where the pain was so that they could go in and show how they could, solve things for them. Well, basically, that's a sales call. So out of 100 calls, maybe they get 5 calls returned. And then when he started getting a sense of this backdoor or stealth method, he went to his partners and he said, you know what, we're going to do things differently. We're going to start writing articles for technical publications, the magazines that talk about the new technology. And so then they started putting out calls to interview CEOs on the new technologies to find out what's happening with the trends in the industry, things like that. Well, then they got 90 return calls because everybody has an ego, and CEO loves to be called an expert, and plus he knows free advertising, or she knows free advertising. So they got in, and you got to fulfill on what your research project is. It's not always about articles. These 2 examples I'm giving you are about that. But then at the end of every one of those meetings, when they would interview the CEO would say, well, why are you doing this? And, they would then say, well, we're kind of at the bleeding edge of this technology because we're speaking to, experts like you and, organizations all over the place. So we like to kind of, share that and feel it's our job to kind of share that with the industry and everything. And so the CEO will go, so you're talking to a lot of people like me, you're aware of a lot of issues. Well, maybe we should talk to you about some of them we're facing. So it was a different way of them getting in the door than being a hire me kind of person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, we probably have time for one last question if anybody has a last question.
Darrell, my name is Matt. I'm sure that there's probably been instances, probably not very many, but has this ever worked in reverse? I mean, in terms of being bad? Because
last thing you said, being what?
Because I could see, let's say you set up, you do your homework, you set up an interview, you meet this person, maybe you just don't click, or maybe this is the wrong, even though the person said this was the right 15 minutes, it's the wrong 15 minutes.
I get where you're coming from, Matt. Here's the thing about this. You're the one generating this. You're the one out there with a mission to get information. You can't ever have a, quote, bad meeting to get information. You either got it or you didn't. See, in the front door mindset of an interview going well or not, and whether you clicked and, is this interview going to help you get the job, in that domain, yes, there's good or bad, we clicked or we didn't, and, this backfired on me, or I don't know if a front door interview would ever be a backfire. It's just like it just didn't work, it didn't go well. But when you're on a mission to gain information and you're utilizing and making contacts to gain information, it's really not ever like it could not go well. It's just like this person's going to be somebody I can cultivate a real relationship with, and this one's a stick in the mud, and they're going to be hard. But even the sticks in the mud, even the personalities that don't seem to click, you'd be amazed, Matt, when you cultivate them, just by sending that holiday letter every 30 days or something like that. You'd be amazed how sometimes the hardest, types, have their inner core of warmth that, comes back to you at some point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. I think we got a lot of great ideas, and thank you so much for spending time with us. And they'll go on and probably with great interest finish the book if they haven't already, or really put it to practice. And I'll tell you what, we'll let you know how it goes. So if you guys want to share some of these stories, we'll get them back to Darrell and let him know how it's going for us. So.
Yeah, please do. And if you'd like to get on my newsletter, if you just go to CareerGuy.com and sign up for the Career Jolt newsletter, we can stay in touch, and happy to always hear from you. And thanks for inviting me in, Jennifer. I know this 2 days is really going to be a great jet propulsion for your folks there.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.